23. Next to the last day in January, the boys decided to clean the gold dust and nuggets out of the riffles in their sluice boxes, find out what their reward was to be for their strenuous 2 months' work since the last cleanup. From their talk, I discovered that what I had thought to be a barbecue grill the day I cleaned up the tool house was really a small forge which they used with a good-sized retort to recover gold from the quicksilver. I should have liked to go up to Bent Pine and watch the last stages of their cleanup, but they disregarded my hints for an invitation. I couldn't say I blamed them. They had a job to do, one that was important to them, and they didn't want to be distracted from their work by questions and comments from a rank amateur in the business of placer mining. But they knew how interested I was in the outcome, so after they finished weighing the gold, they came down to my cabin to report. Not too good, not too bad, was dear Sir's judicial summing up of the situation. We'll realize about $2,000 on the deal. There are about 5 more months to wash gravel before the state shuts down on us for the summer, but we'll clean up again about the 1st of April. What are you going to do with the gold, boys? Dear Sir answered me. We decided to take it to Happy Camp first thing in the morning, send it by express from there to the Mint in San Francisco. Do you want us to do some shopping for you? Well, what I'd really like is to go with you. That is, if you're going early enough. I've been hoping for a long time I'd get a chance to go to Wairika for a day and visit Nora and Benji. I can get a bus out of Happy Camp about 9 o'clock. Sure, that'll be swell, Up and Up said. Then we'll come back and pick you up about 5 or 6 in the afternoon. Well, that's settled. Dear Sir said, rising to go. What's left of the day, Up and I will work on the trail up to the mine. It's almost finished now. By the time good weather comes, you'll be able to go up there anytime you want to. Thanks a lot. That will be fine. We'll stop by for you about 7 in the morning, Dear Sir said, and they went whistling down the trail. I had another reason for wanting to go to Wairika, but I hadn't mentioned it to the boys for fear they would laugh at me. I intended to go to a doctor there for a checkup. Not that there was anything special the matter with me, but I'd read a very convincing, even scary article in a magazine saying that everyone should have a medical going over every 6 months, regardless of how well he felt. I decided to do it the first chance I got, and this was it. Next morning, everything went according to schedule, and at 10 minutes after 9, the boys waved goodbye to me as I boarded a bus at Happy Camp and set off for my visit with Nora and that checkup with the doctor. Arriving at my destination, a taxi took me to Up and Up's little white house on the outskirts of town. Here Nora greeted me with exuberant joy. Come in, dear madam, she called, standing in the doorway. Then she ran down the path to meet me, lifted me off my feet in her strong young arms, set me down carefully as if I were breakable. We went inside and she showed me little Benji, though he wasn't very little anymore. He lay in his crib, plump, rosy, and beautiful, talking to himself. Kinda nice, isn't he? She said, the glow of pride in her voice more than offsetting the understatement of her words. He's wonderful, Nora, and I meant it. She beamed at me. Somewhat to my surprise, Benji was immaculate, the house clean and orderly. What was more, I knew Nora kept it that way. No woman can fool another woman about a thing like that. When it came to fundamentals, Nora was all right, whether in matters of love or of housekeeping. She served us a delicious luncheon of cream chicken, hot biscuit, lettuce and tomato salad, with vanilla ice cream for dessert. She knew I didn't often get ice cream down on the Klamath. We ate slowly, lingered over our coffee afterward, talking of many things, mostly the baby. Finally, we got around to the baby's father. Nora, I said cautiously, what about Up and Up? Do you think he'll ever get a town job and live here with you and Benji? Why, yes, dear madam, she said seriously. I'm expecting he will. Right now, I'm giving him plenty of slack. He hasn't really grown up yet, some ways. I know, but some men never get over loving the freedom of the mountains, the joy of working for themselves, and the gamble, the excitement of mining. Maybe he... Oh, I'm sure he will, she replied. He's all right. I love him, and I'm dead certain he loves me, and the baby, too. Benji and I can wait. When he's ready, he'll come to us, and I don't want him any sooner." "Well, I hope you're right," I said doubtfully. "But Nora, he's so happy there at the claims. He loves the mountains and the river. Transplant him into town and, well, I don't know." I paused, then took the plunge. "Nora, dear, did you ever think that you and Benji might come to Bent Pine to live?" Her eyes grew round with astonishment. "No, dear madam, I never did," she spoke decisively, almost angrily. "And I don't think I ever will. I got fed up living in the mountains with Pa when I was a kid. Nobody to talk to, no place to go, stuck in a cabin where there was nothing to do with, one day exactly like every other day. No, thank you. No more of that for me. And now with Benji, my goodness, dear madam, you aren't in earnest, are you?" "Oh, it was just a thought," I said hastily, "and evidently not a good one. You see, I imagine you enjoy your 2 visits with me." "Oh, I did," she said hastily. "But a visit is different from, hello, from settling down in a place for keeps. You understand that, don't you?" "Of course," I said, and started to talk again of Benji, how cute he was and how pretty, but my heart was heavy. I loved Nora and Up and Up, and there seemed no chance of happiness for them. Up and Up's youthful spirit would, I was sure, quickly shrivel and grow old in town, working indoors from 9 to 5. Nora's cramped and lonely childhood blinded her to the rich satisfactions of life close to nature. What would be the outcome? I could not guess. After another look at Benji, asleep now, I went off to see the doctor for that checkup the magazine article declared I ought to have. He was the kind of doctor women fall for at first glance. Clean and fresh looking, acting like you were the only patient of the day and yours the most interesting case he'd seen in weeks. When I told him I was past 80, he made the perfect response. "You don't look it," he said, with just the right note of surprise in his voice. The dear. If he found out that I had high blood pressure, arthritis, and a ticker that was slightly imperfect, he didn't mention it. He put aside his instruments and looked at me with a smile. "You go home," he said, "and be happy. Don't worry. Don't lose sleep. Putter in your garden. Have all the fun you can. Forget this old age nightmare." Just the looks of him sent my spirits soaring. I went back to the station to catch the 3:30 bus. I felt as if I had stepped off a merry-go-round, a little dizzy with relief at what the doctor had said, and quite happy, appropriately enough, since I was going to Happy Camp. There the boys would be waiting to take me home. I climbed onto the bus, took the first vacant seat I came to, and looked off to the horizon. I didn't like the way the clouds were piling up from the south, nor the sudden gusts of wind that whistled the dust of the street into the little swirls and puffs. We had a young driver, a slim-faced youth of 18 or so. He gazed at the sky and said worriedly to us passengers, "Looks as if we are in for a big storm." Neither his words nor his manner contributed anything to my peace of mind. I hate to travel over mountain roads, especially the narrow ones we have in the Siskiyou Mountains when there's a storm of any proportions. Beside myself and the driver, there were 4 other people in the bus. Across the aisle from me sat a distraught young woman who evidently wore her school teacher manners all day. Anyway, she had them on now. An uneasy young man squirmed on the seat ahead of me. Then there was the blank-faced Indian boy who had leapt on the stage from a shoe-shine stand in front of a barber shop. The other passenger was a sloppy, dough-faced young man who announced in a loud voice that he was part of a band. The main part, he wanted us to know. He had come aboard holding a huge instrument case over our dodging heads. "Soon as I hit my seat, I'll begin snoring," he said, and made good on that declaration. He looked so spongy that I felt like punching him down with my fist as if he were a pan of dough. By the time we pulled out on the highway, it had begun to sprinkle. A few miles farther along, when we were well into the mountains, the heavens opened up and let us have a deluge. The jittery young schoolteacher started to hold a conversation with herself, but intended for me to hear. "I don't like this driver," she fumed. "He's going much too fast on this slippery pavement. Such careless driving." Apparently thinking she had not impressed me sufficiently, she leaned across the aisle and raised her voice. "I've ridden with him a number of times," she informed me. "He's irresponsible. Aren't you frightened?" I shook my head. What was the use of owning up that I was to a woman already in a panic? At that instant, one of our fenders barely clipped a passing car. The young school teacher uttered a muffled screech. My, this is awful, she chattered. If I live to get where I'm living, I'm never riding this bus again. I came from Alabama where they have trained, responsible bus drivers. Ouch, what now? The old bus came to a jerky stop. The driver spoke over his shoulder in a boyish tenor. Something is wrong with the emergency brake. It won't work. It don't have to work, said the nervous man sitting in front of me. Not if you go slow enough. Yes, boy. Drive slow, instructed the school teacher. Well, the other brakes ain't so good neither, the boy confessed. I was about to say, I smell smoke, but held my tongue. Seemed like we had enough troubles without that. The boy started the motor, and we picked up speed on the slippery road. The bus skidded sickeningly, was brought back under control. The young lady from Alabama clutched her portfolio of lesson papers and sat on the edge of her seat. Driver, stop this bus, she shouted. Here's where I get off. Her voice rose above the rattle of the old bus and the sound of wind and pelting rain. The boy came to a nice smooth stop on a bit of level road. He looked in wonder at the woman plunging down the aisle. He pulled the door open. She dropped down into the mud and slush at the edge of the pavement. The door swung shut behind her, and we moved forward again. I don't know what's the matter with her anyway, the boy complained. Another 5 minutes and we'd have been at the rest station where she always gets off. I guess we're good for another half-mile. The nervous young man in the front of me turned. I tell you, madam, he said, I'm not used to these narrow winding roads and the harum-scarum drivers, and I don't like 'em. I thought, if people on this bus don't stop acting like this, I'm going to get scared myself. Through all this, the Indian boy looked straight ahead, his face expressionless. The rain continued, and early twilight came down around us. This told me that the clouds were thick and heavily laden with water. Steadily we climbed Cade Mountain and came to a stretch of dirt road, now inches deep in the mud. The bus slipped from side to side, while the boy made desperate efforts to hit the ruts and stay in them. We started on the other side of the mountain. We started down on the other side of the mountain. Our speed increased alarmingly, and the boy seemed to be engaged in a wrestling match with the emergency brake lever. Smoke started to curl up through the floorboards. We all saw it and stared nervously at the door. If the bus burst into flames, would we be able to? We were going faster and faster. Suddenly the driver ran the bus into the bank at one side of the road. We came to a jolting, shuddering halt. The doughy young man stopped snoring. The driver turned around and faced us. Here's where I stop for the night, he said, in the manliest voice I'd heard him use. It was quite dark now. I drew my first deep breath in an hour, but my next thought was of the boys waiting for me in Happy Camp. What would they think when I did not arrive? Maybe we can do something about that brake, said the doughy young man, getting up and coming to the front of the bus. I got to play at a Happy Camp dance tonight. It won't be no band worth speaking about if I ain't there. He and the driver climbed out. I heard them lighting matches and probing around under the raised hood. Even I knew this was an odd place to look for an emergency brake. Quit that, you fools, the nervous young man shouted. Use your flashlight. I ain't got one, whimpered the boy. I have a flashlight right here in my handbag. I gave it to the boy, and he disappeared again into the darkness. The nervous young man alternately pounded and jerked on the emergency brake lever. It's frozen, was his verdict. Looks more like it's on fire, I commented, gazing at the smoke that curled upward, now diminished in volume. The boy, looking like a drowned puppy, slid in the door and tossed the flashlight into my lap. It was plastered with mud and grease and was badly battered. He had evidently been using it as a hammer. The doughy-faced young musician came inside too. He and the nervous young man went back to their seats. We sat in glum silence, waiting for something to happen, though there seemed like no likelihood that anything would, when something did. The regular mail stage pulled carefully by us and stopped. Anything I can do for you? Shouted the driver. There's a lady here who'd like to go to Happy Camp. The nervous passenger jumped to his feet. I want to go too, he said decisively. Me too, stated the stolid Indian boy, sidling into the aisle. I'll stay here with the driver, the fat young musician called out. He might need someone to help him. Happy Camp will just have to make out the best it can without me tonight. He was a man, after all, right after my own heart. It's so easy to be deceived by appearances. I was well soaked by the time I got into the crowded rear seat of the mail stage. Where the nervous young man and the Indian boy sat, I do not know. "Are you all right, Grandma?" called the mailman over his shoulder. I assured him I was in fine shape. Now, that was the first time anyone had ever called me Grandma except for my one grandchild. As we rolled uneventfully along down the steep mountainside, I was pondering. How in Sam Hill did this man know I was old enough to be a grandmother? It was pitch dark, and I hadn't uttered a word until I answered his question. I wish someone would enlighten me. When he stopped in front of the small hotel in Happy Camp, I saw the dripping figures of Dear Sir and Up and Up. As they helped me out of the mail stage, the mail carrier sang out, "Good night, Grandma. Hope you're none worse for the wear." That man. The boys took me to a small eating place. Perched on high stools, we had roast beef sandwiches and hot coffee. While we ate, the boys kept insisting that we see the picture of the big fight that was showing at the Del Rio Theater. They thought the rain was slackening off, and the worst of the storm would be over in the next hour or so. Then it would be safer to travel over the stretch of road along the bluff. "You mean that place where it rains rocks and mudslides in wet weather?" I asked, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. "Now don't you worry," Up and Up tried to reassure me. "There'll likely be no danger at all time we get there, and we'll try to see that somebody with a heavier car than our jalopy goes ahead and pushes the rocks, if any, over the side and into the river. See?" I didn't want to see. I'd been over that piece of road in daylight, and it was a beautiful then, the cliff draped and festooned with wild fuchsias, syringas, and azaleas, ferns and moss growing in the crevices. On the other side, far below, the roaring jade waters of the Klamath. But that was in sunlight. Tonight, in the darkness and rain, well, that was different. I agreed to stay for the show.